A blind princess was given to a Native American as punishment, but he protected her with his life. Abigail Cooper had become bitter and cruel since losing her sight at 15. The only daughter of one of the wealthiest families in American agribusiness, treated everyone around her with contempt, yelling at servants and humiliating anyone who tried to help her. That was when her grandfather, Colonel William Cooper, made a decision that shocked the entire family. He would send his rebellious granddaughter to work on a Native American reservation in rural Montana, far from all the comfort and luxury she knew. "You'll learn what humility is, girl," the old man said firmly. "And don't bother crying or making a scene. It's already decided." Abigail hurled the crystal glass she was holding toward her grandfather's voice, hearing the sound of the expensive piece shattering on the marble floor. "I'm not going anywhere. You can't force me." "I can, and I will. You're 18 and you'll spend the next 6 months on the Blackfoot Reservation. Maybe there you'll learn to appreciate what you have." The trip was a nightmare. During the 8-hour drive on dirt roads, Abigail cried, screamed, and refused to eat anything. Her long brown hair was matted with sweat by the time they arrived. The family's driver helped her out of the truck, but she angrily shoved his hands away. "Get your dirty hands off me." Then she heard a deep, calm voice speaking in perfect English. "Is she the Colonel's granddaughter?" "Yes, Chief Hawk River. I hope you'll have patience with her," the driver replied, clearly embarrassed. Abigail turned her face toward the voice. Even without sight, she could sense the strong presence of the man speaking. There was something different about him, an energy she'd never felt before. "My name is Hawk River. I lead this community. I'll take care of you during your stay here." "I don't need anyone to take care of me," Abigail snapped arrogantly. "Least of all you." A heavy silence fell around them. She could feel the disapproving stares of the other people on the reservation, even without seeing them. The sound of footsteps on the packed earth told her several had gathered to watch the arrival of the spoiled rich girl. "All right," Hawk River said patiently. "I'll show you where you'll sleep." He picked up her suitcase and began walking. Abigail hesitated for a moment, then followed the sound of his footsteps, tripping several times on the rocks along the path. Each stumble made her more furious and humiliated. "Watch your step," he warned. "I didn't ask for your help," she shouted, but immediately tripped on the very step he'd mentioned. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Hawk River caught her by the arms before she fell. For a moment, Abigail felt the strength and steadiness of his hands. It was different from the careful touch of the mansion's servants. There was something genuine there, real concern. "Let go," she muttered, but without the same anger as before. The cabin where she'd stay was simple, a wooden bed with a straw mattress, a small table and a chair. Nothing like the luxurious room she had at home, with its private marble bathroom and a closet bigger than this entire structure. "The bathroom is behind the cabin. If you need anything during the night, just call my name. My house is right next door." "Why are you doing this?" Abigail suddenly asked. "Doing what?" "Being kind to me. Everyone here must hate me. You know my family, you know how they treat people like you." Hawk River was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice carried deep sorrow. "Hate is a feeling that consumes the one who feels it, not the one who receives it. I learned that long ago." That first night, Abigail barely slept. The sounds of the forest were unlike anything she had ever known. Crickets, frogs, the wind rustling through the trees. And there were smells she had never encountered before, damp earth, wood, plants she couldn't identify. In the morning, she woke to the sound of voices talking outside, people speaking in a language she didn't understand, mixed with English, children laughing and running. It was a world completely different from the elegant silence of the mansion, where the staff tiptoed around so as not to disturb her. "Good morning," came Hawk River's voice as she opened the cabin door. "What time is it?" 6 in the morning. Here, we rise with the sun." 6 in the morning, Abigail exclaimed. "No one has ever woken me at 6 in my life." "Well, You'll have to get used to it. Let's have breakfast." She followed Hawk River to a common area where several people were seated around a long wooden table. The conversation stopped as she approached. The silence was awkward. "Everyone, this is Abigail," Hawk River said. "She'll be staying with us for a few months." "Good morning," said a young woman's voice, though the tone was clearly forced. "This is Luna Wolf, my cousin," Hawk River explained. Abigail sat where Hawk River indicated. Someone placed a plate in front of her. She fumbled with her hands, trying to figure out what was on it. It seemed like cornmeal, scrambled eggs, and something that smelled like fish. "I don't eat this," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "It's what we have," replied an older woman's voice. "If you don't want it, you'll go hungry." "Mother," Hawk River murmured. "No, son. She needs to learn. No one here is special. Everyone eats the same food, does the same work." Abigail angrily pushed the plate away and stood up. "I won't stay here to be humiliated." "Then go back home," Luna Wolf said, a spiteful smile in her voice. "No one invited you anyway." "Luna," Hawk River scolded his cousin. "It's true, cousin. Her family has stolen our land for generations, and now she comes here playing the victim." Abigail felt tears burning her eyes. As much as she didn't want to admit it, she knew Luna Wolf was right. The Cooper family had indeed taken land from native communities for decades. Her own grandfather had always spoken of it with pride during business meetings. I didn't ask to come here," she muttered. "No one asked you to come," Luna Wolf shot back. "But since you're here, you'll have to manage like everyone else." Hawk River stood and gently touched Abigail's arm. "Come, I'll show you the reservation." They walked in silence along the dirt paths. Abigail could hear the sounds of work, people talking, tools clanging, water flowing. Gradually, she began forming a mental image of the place through the sounds and smells. "That's the school where the children study," Hawk River explained. "On the other side is where we make crafts to sell in town. And that sound of water is the river." "The river?" "The Missouri River. It's where we fish, where the women wash clothes, where the children play." They reached the riverbank. Abigail could feel the cool breeze coming off the water and hear the gentle rush of the current. It was unexpectedly comforting. "Is it beautiful?" she asked without thinking. "Very. The water is clear. There are colorful fish swimming near the rocks, and there's a big golden oak on the other bank, in full bloom right now." Abigail closed her eyes, trying to picture the scene Hawk River described. For a moment, she almost felt as if she could see it through his words. "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked again. "Because anger and kindness are choices, and I choose kindness." "Even knowing who I am? Who my family is?" Hawk River was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of old pain. "My father lost his life defending our land against land grabbers, funded by families like yours. I was 15 when it happened." Abigail felt a chill in her stomach. She knew the family had conflicts with Native American communities, but she'd never considered the real consequences of that on people's lives. I didn't know. I could hate you. It would be easy. But my father taught me that hate only breeds more hate. If I treated you poorly, you'd go home confirming all the prejudices your family has about us. And if I treat you well, then maybe you'll realize we're just people, like you." In that moment, Abigail began to understand there was far more at stake here than she'd imagined. This wasn't just about her learning humility. It was about breaking a cycle of prejudice and hostility that had repeated for generations. In the following days, she tried to integrate into the reservation's routine. She woke early, attempted to help with chores, but everything was difficult. Without her sight, simple tasks like washing clothes or preparing food became enormous challenges. "You're holding the washboard wrong," said a woman named Morning Dove impatiently. "You'll hurt your hands like that." Abigail adjusted her grip, but the clothes slipped from her hands and fell into the muddy water. "Oh no," she exclaimed in frustration. "Let me do it," Morning Dove sighed. "You're just getting in the way." "I want to learn," Abigail protested. "Then stop crying and pay attention to what I'm saying." That afternoon, Hawk River found her sitting alone by the river, quietly crying. "What's wrong?" "I'm useless. I can't even do the simplest things. Everyone here hates me. and they have every right to. No one learns everything at once, he said, sitting beside her. I struggled too when I was young. But you've always had your sight. You don't know what it's like to live in the dark, depending on others for everything. Hawk River was silent for a moment, as if deciding whether to share something. When I was 10, I went nearly 6 months without seeing. What happened? A severe eye infection. The doctors in town said I might never see again. During those months, I had to relearn how to do everything. Abigail turned her face toward his voice, surprised. How did you manage? My grandmother taught me. She said when we lose one sense, the others grow sharper, and that sometimes we see better with our hearts than with our eyes. What did she mean by that? That there are things we only notice when we stop relying solely on sight. We perceive people, feelings, truths that went unnoticed before. Abigail reflected on his words. Since losing her sight, she had indeed developed a greater ability to sense people's emotions through their voices, their sounds, the way they breathed. Do you think I'll ever adjust here? I think you're stronger than you realize. You just need to let that strength show. That night, Abigail fell asleep thinking of Hawk River's words. For the first time since arriving at the reservation, she felt a flicker of hope. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It means the world to us as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The next morning, she woke determined to try again. When she reached the common area for breakfast, she asked Morning Dove to teach her how to wash clothes once more. Are you sure? Yesterday you gave up at the first obstacle. I'm sure, I really want to learn. Morning Dove led her to the river and patiently explained each step, how to hold the clothes, how to scrub with soap, how to use the washboard. Abigail focused on every detail, every movement. Now you try. This time, Abigail managed to wash a piece of clothing completely. It was just a simple t-shirt, but to her it felt like a great victory. Very good, said Morning Dove, and for the first time, her voice carried a tone of genuine approval. In the days that followed, Abigail kept trying to learn the tasks of the reservation, cooking, crafting, caring for the children. Each small step forward was a triumph for her. Hawk River was always nearby, offering help when needed, but letting her try first. She began noticing little things about him, the gentle way he spoke to the children, the patience he had with the elders, the respect everyone showed him. Why did you become the leader of the community so young? She asked one afternoon as they walked through the reservation. When my father passed, I was next in line, but also because people trusted me to make hard decisions. What kind of decisions? How to deal with businessmen who want our land, how to get resources for the school, how to keep our traditions alive while the modern world pushes into our lives. Abigail realized Hawk River carried a heavy weight on his shoulders. He wasn't much older than her, yet he had responsibilities she'd never imagined. Have you ever thought about leaving, living in the city? Every day, he admitted. It would be easier, but this is my home. These people are my family. I can't abandon them. There was a sadness in his voice that touched Abigail's heart. She began to understand that Hawk River had sacrificed many personal dreams to care for the community. What did you give up? She asked softly. Going to college, seeing other places, having a simpler life without so many responsibilities. Do you regret it? No, but sometimes I wonder how things might have been different. That night, Abigail lay awake thinking about their conversation. She had judged Hawk River and the whole community based on the prejudices she'd learned at home. But reality was far more complicated. The next day, something happened that changed everything. Abigail was walking alone near the river when she tripped on a rock and fell into the water. The current was stronger than she expected, and she began to be swept away. "Help!" she screamed, swallowing water. Hawk River, who was fishing farther downstream, heard the cry and ran toward the sound. Without hesitation, he jumped in and swam to her. "Stay calm. I've got you." He grabbed her arms and pulled her to the shore. Abigail was shaking, both from cold and fear. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" I thought I was going to drown," she whispered. Hawk River wrapped his arms around her, letting her warm herself against his body. Abigail had never felt so protected in her life. "Thank you," she murmured against his chest. "Whenever you need me, I'll be here." It was a simple promise, but it carried deep meaning. In that moment, Abigail realized she was beginning to feel something for Hawk River that went far beyond gratitude. But not everything was romantic moments. With each passing day, she noticed tensions in the reservation she didn't fully understand. "Why does Luna Wolf look at me with such disdain?" she asked Hawk River a few days later. "It's complicated," he sighed. "Luna Wolf's family lost land to grabbers a few years ago. They had to come live here with us." "What does that have to do with me?" "The grabbers were backed by agribusinessmen, people like your family." Abigail felt a weight in her chest. Once again, the Cooper family's actions had caused suffering for innocent people. "I can't change what my family did," she said sadly, "but I can try to be different." "I know, and some people here are already seeing that, but it'll take time." A week later, Abigail got her first chance to prove she was changing. During the early hours of the morning, a violent storm began. Lightning, thunder, and torrential rain that seemed determined to tear everything down. Abigail woke up to the sound of something breaking in the roof of her cabin. "Hawk River," she shouted, afraid the roof would collapse. Within minutes, he appeared at the door, drenched from the rain. "The roof is giving way," she said in terror. Hawk River quickly assessed the situation. One of the main beams was cracked and threatened to give in completely. "You have to get out of here," he said. "And go where? The storm is too strong." Hawk River looked around. His cabin wasn't safe enough either during storms of that intensity. "I'll hold the beam until the storm passes." "What do you mean, hold it?" "With my hands. If I don't, the roof will collapse." Abigail couldn't believe what she was hearing. "That's insane. You could get hurt." "It's the only option. Stay in the corner, away from the beam." For the next 3 hours, Hawk River stood holding the wooden beam to keep it from falling. His muscles trembled from the effort, but he didn't give up for even a minute. Abigail stayed awake, listening to his heavy breathing, the grunts of pain when the weight became too much. She wanted to help, but there was nothing she could do except pray for the storm to pass quickly. "Hawk River, you need to rest," she said when she realized he was at his limit. "I can't. If I let go, it'll fall on you. Then at least let me help. I can hold it with you." "You don't have the strength." "Yes, I do. Let me try." Abigail stood up and felt her way until she found the beam. She placed her hands beside his and pushed upward with all her might. "Like this? Am I helping?" "You are," he lied, trying not to show that she was barely making a difference. But for Abigail, those moments were crucial. For the first time in her life, she was doing something to protect someone else, instead of being protected. When the storm finally passed, Hawk River was exhausted. His hands bled from gripping the rough wood. His arms shook with fatigue. "You did this for me," Abigail murmured, gently touching his injured hands. "I'd do it again as many times as needed." In that moment, she knew she was in love with him. It wasn't just gratitude or admiration she felt. It was real love, deep and true. But she also knew there were enormous obstacles between them. The difference in social class, the history of conflict between their families, the fact that she would eventually have to return home. In the days that followed, Abigail tried to show her feelings subtly. She prepared special meals for him, sought his company whenever possible, paid attention to every word he said. Hawk River also seemed to be developing feelings for her, but remained reserved. Abigail noticed through small gestures the way he held her hand a little longer than necessary when helping her walk, the softer tone in his voice when he spoke to her, the meaningful silences between them. "Do you think two very different people can be together?" she asked one afternoon as they walked through the reservation. "Different how?" "From different worlds, with different pasts." Hawk River stopped walking and stayed silent for a long moment. "I think when two people complete each other, their differences can become strengths instead of obstacles, even when those differences include bad things one family did to the other. A family's actions don't define a person. You're not responsible for what your ancestors did." Abigail felt immense relief hearing those words, but at the same time she knew not everyone in the reservation thought like Hawk River. The proof came a few days later when Luna Wolf confronted her directly. "Don't think I don't know what you're doing," said Luna Wolf angrily when the two were alone by the river. "What are you talking about? You're trying to seduce my cousin. Do you think you can come here and win his heart like it's some kind of trophy?" "That's not it," Abigail protested. "I'm not trying to seduce anyone." "Oh, you are, playing that poor little girl act, asking for help with everything, acting like a victim. But I know who you really are." "You don't know anything about me," Abigail shot back, feeling her anger rise. "Oh, I do. You're the daughter of exploiters, the granddaughter of killers. And when you get tired of playing Native American, you'll go back to your mansion and forget we even exist." Luna Wolf's words stung because there was truth in them. Abigail really would have to go home eventually, and she didn't know how that would affect what she was feeling for Hawk River. "I'm not like my family," she said softly. "That's what every rich person says. But when it comes down to choosing between comfort and doing the right thing, you always choose comfort." That night, Abigail lay awake thinking about Luna Wolf's words. Was she really just pretending to be someone else? When she went back home, would she be able to hold on to the values she was learning on the reservation? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The answer to those questions came sooner than she expected. 2 weeks later, a luxury car pulled into the reservation, kicking up a cloud of dust. Abigail recognized the sound of the engine immediately. It was her grandfather's car. "Abigail!" came the commanding voice of Colonel William. "Where are you?" She stepped out of the cabin, her heart racing. She knew this moment would come, but she didn't feel ready. "I'm here, Grandpa." "Good. Pack your things. We're leaving. Enough of this game. But I still have 2 months left here. Plans have changed. We have important business to handle, and I need you home." Hawk River approached and greeted the colonel politely. "Good afternoon, sir. I'm Hawk River, leader of this community." The colonel barely glanced at him. "Yeah, I know who you are. Thanks for looking after my granddaughter. Here's payment for your trouble." He held out an envelope of cash. Hawk River made no move to take it. "It wasn't trouble, sir. It was a pleasure having her here." "Whatever, Abigail, let's go." "I don't want to," she said, her voice trembling. "What do you mean, you don't want to? Have you lost your mind? Look at the state you're in." Abigail knew she must look very different from the polished young woman who had arrived 2 months earlier. Her hair was tied in a simple ponytail, she wore plain cotton clothes, and her hands were calloused from work. "I'm fine, Grandpa. Better than I've been in a long time." "This is ridiculous. You're a Cooper. You can't live like some wild animal in the woods." "These people aren't animals," Abigail shouted, surprising even herself with the strength in her voice. The colonel turned red with anger. "They've brainwashed you. We're leaving now." "No," Abigail said, for the first time openly defying her grandfather. "I won't. You're underage, and you'll do as I say. I'm 18. I'm an adult, and I can make my own decisions." The colonel looked around and saw several people from the reservation watching the argument. His voice dropped dangerously low. "If you don't come with me now, you're disinherited. Not a single cent of the family money will ever come to you." Abigail felt as if she'd been punched in the gut. She knew her grandfather wasn't bluffing. He was fully capable of cutting all financial ties with her. "Is that really what you want?" the colonel asked. "To live in poverty for the rest of your life?" For a moment, Abigail hesitated. She had grown up with every kind of luxury. She had never lacked for anything. The idea of living without money frightened her. But then she looked around. She saw Mourning Dove, who had taught her to wash clothes patiently. She saw the children playing happily even without expensive toys. She saw Hawk River, who had spent the night holding up the roof to protect her. "I'd rather be poor here than rich and empty at home," she said firmly. The colonel stayed silent for a moment, as if he couldn't believe what he'd heard. "Fine, you've made your choice. Don't come looking for me when you regret it." He got back in the car and drove away, leaving only a cloud of dust and a heavy silence. Abigail stood still, trembling. She had just given up her entire inheritance, all the comfort she had ever known. For the first time in her life, she was truly alone in the world. "You did the right thing," Hawk River said softly, touching her arm. "Did I?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I have nothing now. No money. No place to live when I leave here. You have something far more valuable than money." "What?" "You have yourself. The person you truly are, not the one your family wanted you to be." That night, Abigail cried hard, not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time in her life, she had made an important decision based on what felt right, not what was expected of her. In the days that followed, news that she had stood up to her grandfather spread through the reservation. People began treating her differently. There was still distrust, especially from Luna Wolf, but also a new respect. "Did you really give up everything?" Morning Dove asked as they washed clothes together. "I did." "Why?" Abigail thought about the question. It was a complex answer she was still discovering. "Because I realized I wasn't happy with all of it. The money, the expensive things, the luxury. None of it meant anything if I wasn't someone I could be proud of." "And are you proud of who you are now?" "I'm learning to be. I still have a lot to improve, but at least now I'm trying to be a better person." Morning Dove smiled for the first time since Abigail had arrived. "Welcome to the family," she said. Those words meant more to Abigail than any inheritance or bank account ever could. As the days passed, she became more and more part of reservation life. She learned to cook traditional dishes, make crafts, and tell stories to the children. She also began teaching basic English and math to those who wanted to learn. "You have a gift for teaching," Hawk River said one afternoon after watching her teach a group of children. "I enjoy it. It makes me feel useful." "Have you ever thought about becoming a real teacher?" "What do you mean?" "Studying to get certified. There's a great need for teachers who understand the reality of traditional communities." Abigail had never seriously considered having a career. In the Cooper family, women didn't need to work. They were supported by their husbands or family. Is that even possible? I mean, without money for school? There are government programs, scholarships. If you really want it, we'll find a way. For the first time since arriving, Abigail began to see a real future for herself. Not a future of dependence and empty luxury, but one where she could contribute to something greater. "I want to try," she said. "Then let's look into the options." That night, Hawk River brought back books and forms he had gotten in town. They stayed up late studying scholarship opportunities and inclusion programs. "This one looks promising," Hawk River said, pointing to a program designed to train teachers for Native American communities. "You'd have in-person classes once a month and the rest would be by correspondence." "But I'm blind. How will I keep up with the classes?" "It's all explained here about accommodations for the visually impaired, materials in Braille, audio recordings, special support." Abigail felt a growing emotion. For the first time in her life, she was planning something for herself, not having plans made by others. "Do you think I can do it?" "I'm sure you can. You're much smarter than you think." They talked until very late. As they planned the future, Abigail noticed the conversation was taking a more personal turn. "What about you?" she asked. "What are your plans?" "To keep taking care of the community, try to secure improvements for the school, for the healthcare system, protect our lands." "Always alone?" Hawk River fell silent for a moment. "Not necessarily alone." "What do you mean?" "I mean, if I found the right person, someone who understood my life, my responsibility to this community, I'd want to share that life with them." Abigail's heart raced. She knew he was talking about her, but she didn't know how to respond. "What if that person was different from you?" she asked cautiously. "The best partnerships are between different people who complete each other. Even if that person had a complicated past? The past doesn't define anyone. What defines a person are the choices they make in the present." Abigail felt the moment had come to be honest about her feelings. "Hawk River, I need to tell you something." "What?" I'm in love with you." He stayed silent for so long, she began to think she'd said too much. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I shouldn't have said anything. I know we're very different and you have responsibilities, Abigail, he interrupted gently. What? I'm in love with you too. She felt as if the world had stopped. All her worries, all her fears, everything vanished for a moment. Really? Very much so. From the day you decided to stay in the storm to help me hold up the roof, I knew you were special. But I didn't even really help. I was too weak. It wasn't about physical strength, it was about the intention. For the first time in your life, you wanted to protect someone instead of being protected. That night they talked until dawn. They spoke of dreams, fears, plans for the future. For the first time, Abigail felt completely understood by someone, but not everything would be easy. Luna Wolf was far from happy when she learned about their relationship. Have you lost your mind completely? She shouted at Hawk River the next day. She's the daughter of our enemies. She's not our enemy, Luna Wolf. How can you be sure? What if it's all an act? What if she's here to gather information about our lands? She gave up her entire inheritance to stay here. What kind of spy would do that? A very clever one. Hawk River, you're the leader of this community. You can't let feelings cloud your judgment. My feelings aren't clouding my judgment. I know her heart. Heart? Luna Wolf laughed sarcastically. Those people have no heart, only greed. The argument grew so heated that others from the reservation gathered to see what was happening. Abigail also heard the shouting and approached. What are you talking about? She asked. I'm saying you're a liar, Luna Wolf yelled. You're deceiving my cousin. Luna Wolf, stop this, Hawk River intervened. No, someone has to speak the truth. She'll break your heart and go back to her rich life when she gets tired of playing here. That's not true, Abigail said, her voice trembling. Of course it is. You think you can change who you are just because you've spent a few months here. You were born rich and exploitative, and that's what you'll always be. Luna Wolf's words cut deep because they touched on Abigail's most intimate fears. What if she really couldn't change? What if it was just a phase that would pass with time? I'm not like my family, she said, but her voice didn't sound very convincing. Prove it, Luna Wolf challenged. How? Cut all ties with them. Change your name. Legally renounce your inheritance. Turn your back on that world for good. Abigail fell silent. Legally renouncing her inheritance would mean she could never go back, even if she wanted to. It was a far more definitive step than simply refusing her grandfather's money. I need to think about this, she murmured. See? Luna Wolf turned to Hawk River. At the first real challenge, she hesitates. That proves I'm right. Abigail walked away with tears in her eyes. Luna Wolf's words had planted a seed of doubt she couldn't ignore. That night, she talked to Hawk River about it. Do you think Luna Wolf is right? She asked. About what? About me just pretending to be someone else. About me not really being able to change. Hawk River took her hands in his. I think you've already changed much more than you realize. The woman who arrived here 3 months ago isn't the same one sitting here with me now. But what if it's only temporary? What if, when things get really hard, I want to go back to comfort? That could happen, or it might not. The only way to know is by living one day at a time. Do you think I should do what Luna Wolf said? Legally renounce my inheritance? Hawk River was silent for a long moment. I think you should only do it if it's something you truly want, not to prove anything to Luna Wolf or anyone else. And you? Would you want me to do it? I'd want you to do what makes you happiest and most at peace with yourself. It was a wise answer, but it didn't make the decision any easier. Abigail spent the next few days reflecting on it. Meanwhile, she continued with her plans to study to become a teacher. Hawk River helped her fill out all the forms and submit her scholarship application. What if I don't get accepted? She asked as they walked to the post office in the nearest town. Then we try something else. There are other options. You really believe in me, don't you? I believe in you far more than you believe in yourself. On the trip to town, Abigail had her first real taste of what her life would be like without her family's money. They rode an old, crowded bus, ate simple sandwiches Hawk River had prepared, and stayed in a cheap boarding house overnight. Is it very different from what you're used to? Hawk River asked, as they shared a small room with 2 single beds. Very, she admitted. But it's not bad. It's simple. There's something comforting about simplicity. How so? When you have a lot of money, you're always worried about it. How to invest, how to spend, how to protect it. When you have little, you only worry about the essentials. It's easier to know what really matters. The next day they mailed the scholarship application and returned to the reservation. On the way back, Abigail made a decision. Hawk River, I've decided. Decided what? I'm going to renounce my inheritance legally. Are you sure? I am. I don't want to do it to prove anything to Lunawolf or anyone else. I want to do it because it feels right. What if you regret it later? Then I'll have to live with the consequences of my choices. But I'd rather regret doing what I thought was right than regret doing what was easy. Hawk River smiled and took her hand. I'm proud of you. Why? Because you're making a tough decision for the right reasons. When they returned to the reservation, Abigail sought out Lunawolf to share her decision. I came to tell you I'm renouncing the inheritance. Lunawolf looked at her in surprise. Really? Really? Legally even? I'll sign all the necessary papers. Why? To prove something to me? No, to prove it to myself. Lunawolf fell silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. I'm sorry if I was too harsh with you. It's hard to trust after everything our family has been through. I understand, and I don't expect you to trust me right away. I hope to earn that trust over time. Maybe I judged you too quickly. Maybe, but you were protecting your family. That's understandable. That day, Abigail began the legal process of renouncing the inheritance. It was a complicated procedure that would require several trips to town and a lot of paperwork, but she was determined. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived with the results of her scholarship application. It's here, shouted Hawk River, running to Abigail's cabin with the letter in hand. Well, was I accepted? You open it. With trembling hands, Abigail fumbled until she found the edge of the letter. Hawk River helped her tear the envelope. Read it to me, she asked. Dear Abigail Cooper, we are pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted into the teacher training program for traditional communities. Abigail shrieked with joy and threw herself into Hawk River's arms. I did it. I did it. You sure did. I knew you could. The first classes would start in 2 months. Abigail would have to travel to the state capital once a month for in-person sessions, and the rest of the time she would study with adapted materials. I'm scared, she confessed to Hawk River the night before her first trip. Scared of what? Of not keeping up, of being the only blind person in the class, of not being smart enough. You're one of the smartest people I know, and you'll do well because you have something many students don't. What's that? You have real motivation. You're not studying because someone told you to, or because it's expected of you. You're studying because you chose to. Her first experience at the university was frightening, but also thrilling. Abigail was the only blind student in her class, but the professors were prepared for it. She received all her materials in Braille and audio. How was it? Hawk River asked when she returned from her first trip. Hard, but wonderful. The professors are great, the other students were kind, and I felt like I was in the right place. Did you keep up with the lessons? I did. It was exhausting, but I managed. And you know what else? I found out I have a knack for memorizing. Since I can't see, I've developed a really strong memory. Over the following months, Abigail balanced her studies with life on the reservation. She studied every morning, helped with community tasks in the afternoon, and spent evenings talking with Hawk River or helping the children with their homework. Are you happy? Hawk River asked one night as they walked along the riverbank. Very happy. Happier than I ever imagined I could be. Even without all the luxury you used to have. Especially without the luxury. I've learned that real luxury isn't about expensive things. It's about having a life with purpose, people you love, and people who love you back. And do you regret anything? Abigail thought about the question. It had been nearly a year since she arrived on the reservation. I regret taking so long to figure out who I really was, but I don't regret a single decision I've made since coming here. Not even giving up the money. Especially giving up the money. You know why? Why? Because when you have a lot of money, you never know if people like you or your money. Now I know that those who like me like who I truly am. That night, Hawk River asked a question that would change everything. Abigail, will you marry me? She stopped walking, surprised. Really? Very much so. I love you and want to spend the rest of my life with you. But what if I can't be a good wife to a community leader? What if I can't handle all the responsibilities? You've already been handling those responsibilities for months, and most importantly, I don't want you to just be the leader's wife. I want you to be my partner in everything. Partner how? In decisions about the community, in projects to improve people's lives, in everything. 2 heads are better than 1. Abigail felt her eyes fill with tears. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. They kissed right there by the riverbank under the stars Abigail couldn't see but knew were there. The wedding was set to follow the traditions of the reservation. It would be a simple ceremony but full of meaning. Do you want to invite your family? Hawk River asked as they planned the event. I don't know. I don't think they'd come anyway, and if they did, it would only be to try to convince me to come back. It's your decision, but maybe it'd be a chance to show them how you've changed. Abigail thought long and hard about it. Finally, she decided to send an invitation only to her mother, Elizabeth. She was the only one in the family she still felt any affection for. To her surprise, Elizabeth replied that she would come. She's really coming? Hawk River asked when they got the confirmation. Seems like it. I'm nervous. Why? Because it's been over a year since I last spoke to her, and because I'm afraid she'll try to talk me out of the wedding. The day before the wedding, Elizabeth arrived at the reservation. Abigail was surprised to see her mother had come alone, without a driver or security. Mom? She called when she heard the familiar voice. Abigail, my girl. They embraced and Abigail realized her mother was crying. Why are you crying, Mom? Because you're unrecognizable. In a good way. What do you mean? You were always so sad, so bitter. Now you seem at peace. I am at peace. For the first time in my life. They talked for hours. Elizabeth shared that the family had faced many difficulties after Abigail left. Your grandfather had serious health problems, and some business deals went wrong. He's become more reflective. And you? How are you? Sad to have lost my daughter, but happy to see you've found your way. You're not going to try to convince me to come back. Elizabeth looked around, taking in the simple but harmonious life of the reservation. No, I think you made the right choice. The wedding took place the next day, a beautiful and emotional ceremony. Abigail wore a simple white cotton dress made by the women of the reservation. Her hair was loose, adorned with wildflowers. You look beautiful, Hawk River whispered as she approached. Are you sure? I can't see myself in a mirror. I'm sure. You've never looked more beautiful. The ceremony followed traditional rituals Abigail had learned during her time there. They exchanged vows in English and the community's native language. I promise to love and protect you always, Hawk River said. I promise to stand by you through all life's hardships and joys. I promise to love and respect you always, Abigail replied. I promise to be your partner in everything and honor the responsibility of being part of this community. When the shaman declared them husband and wife, the whole reservation celebrated. Even Luna Wolf, who had fully reconciled with Abigail, cried with emotion. Welcome officially to the family, she said, hugging her sister-in-law. The celebration lasted late into the night, filled with traditional food, dancing, music, and stories. Elizabeth participated in everything with curiosity and joy. Thank you for coming, Mom, said Abigail when they had a moment alone. Thank you for inviting me and for showing me there's a different way to live. Different how? With purpose, with real community, with genuine love. The next morning, Elizabeth was getting ready to leave. Will you go back home and tell Grandpa how I'm doing? Asked Abigail. I will, and maybe it'll make him rethink a few things. I doubt it. He's so stubborn. More stubborn than the granddaughter who gave up a fortune to marry a Native American? Elizabeth smiled. Touché. They hugged once more. If you ever want to visit me in the city, you'll always be welcome, said Elizabeth. And if you want to come visit me here, you will be too. Maybe I'll come back for vacation. I liked the peace of this place. After Elizabeth left, Abigail and Hawk River settled into married life. She continued her studies to become a teacher, and he carried on with his responsibilities as a community leader. How does it feel to be a married woman? Hawk River teased one morning. The same, but better. It's strange. Strange how? I always thought marriage meant losing freedom, but I feel freer than ever. Because you married someone who wants you to be yourself, not an edited version of you. 6 months after the wedding, Abigail graduated as a teacher. The ceremony was small, but very moving. I'm so proud of you, Hawk River said when she received her diploma. We did it, she shouted, throwing herself into his arms. You did it. I just supported you. No, we did it. If you hadn't believed in me from the start, I never would have tried. Abigail began working as a teacher at the reservation school and in nearby communities. She specialized in inclusive education and became a role model in the region. You know what's most rewarding about my job? She told Hawk River one afternoon. What? When I see a child struggling to learn something new and finally getting it, I know how it feels to think you're incapable, so I know how important it is when someone believes in you. You're making a real difference in these children's lives. And they're making a difference in mine too. 2 years after the wedding, Abigail received an unexpected visit. It was her younger brother, Nathan, whom she hadn't seen since before moving to the reservation. Nate, she called when she heard the familiar voice. Hey, sis. They hugged emotionally. What are you doing here? How did you find me? Mom gave me the address. I wanted to see you, meet your husband, understand how you live now. Nathan stayed at the reservation for a week. He helped with community tasks, attended Abigail's classes, and had long talks with Hawk River. You've changed so much, he said the night before leaving. For better or worse? Definitely for better. You're happy, genuinely happy. I am. And you? How are things at home? Complicated. Grandpa's getting old and stubborn. The business isn't doing well, and I don't know if I want to follow the family's path. What do you mean? I mean, maybe I want to do something different with my life too. Something that matters. Like what? I don't know yet. But seeing you here, the work you do, it makes me want to find my own way. You can always visit me whenever you want. And if you decide to study or work in education, I can help. Really? Of course, family is family. When Nathan left, Abigail kept thinking about their conversation. Maybe her life change was inspiring others in the family too. That impression was confirmed a few months later when Elizabeth came back to visit her. I came to tell you some news, her mother said as soon as she arrived. What news? Your brother decided to study education. He wants to be a teacher like you. Abigail was moved. Really? And Grandpa, what did he think? He didn't like it at all, but Nate didn't care. He said his life is his own and he'll do what he thinks is right. I'm so proud of him. And there's more. I'm making some changes too. What kind of changes? I started working with an organization that helps women in vulnerable situations. It's the first time in my life I've had a real job. Mom, that's wonderful. You inspired me. Seeing how you found purpose in your life made me want to find mine too. And Grandpa, what does he think about all this? He's furious, says the family is falling apart, but I think it's changing for the better. Elizabeth stayed for 2 weeks this time. She helped Abigail at the school, learned some crafting techniques from the women on the reservation, and talked a lot with Hawk River about community leadership. Your husband is a very wise man, she told Abigail. He is. I learn from him every day. And he learns from you too. You complement each other in such a beautiful way. In their 3rd year of marriage, Abigail and Hawk River received an offer that would change their lives again. The state government wanted to create a pilot program for inclusive education in traditional communities and they were invited to coordinate the project. "What do you think?" Hawk River asked. "It's an incredible opportunity. We could help so many more children, but it would mean traveling a lot, spending time away from the reservation. And would you be willing to do that? With you, I'd be willing to do anything." They accepted the offer. The project was ambitious: to develop teaching methods adapted for Native American children with disabilities, train teachers, and create special educational materials. "You know what's the best part of this project?" Abigail said during one of their trips to present the program. "What?" "We're using my experience as a blind person and your experience as a Native leader to help others. Our challenges have become strengths. Not to mention, we found each other because of those differences." "Exactly. If I weren't blind, maybe I'd never have developed so much empathy. If you weren't a community leader, maybe you wouldn't understand so much about social responsibility." The project was a huge success. In 2 years, they implemented the program in over 50 communities. Abigail became a national reference for inclusive education. "Do you remember what your life was like before coming here?" Hawk River asked one night as they returned from another work trip. "I do. It feels like another life, another person." "Do you miss anything?" "The money, the luxuries? No. I don't miss any of that." "Then what do you miss?" "I don't miss anything. My life is complete." "Really? There's nothing you'd still like to have or do?" Abigail thought about it. There was one thing, actually. There is one thing. "What?" "I'd like to have children." Hawk River stopped walking. "Really? Really? I want to build a family with you. I want to teach our children about both worlds we come from. And here I was thinking you'd never bring it up." "Why?" "Because I want children with you too. But I was afraid to pressure you." "Why would you be afraid?" "Because I know raising children is a huge responsibility, and our lives are already so busy with work. But that's exactly why I want it. I want to raise children who understand social responsibility, who know how to make a difference in the world. Children who have the best of both worlds, traditional wisdom and modern education." Exactly. They started trying to conceive. Abigail got pregnant 6 months later. "I'm pregnant," she announced to Hawk River one morning. "Really? How do you know?" "I took the test yesterday in town. Positive." Hawk River picked her up and spun her around. "We're having a baby," he shouted. "Shh," she laughed. "You'll wake up the whole reservation." The pregnancy was smooth. Abigail continued working until the 7th month, always accompanied by Hawk River on her trips. "Do you think I'll be a good mother?" she asked during one of their last trips before the baby was born. "I think you'll be an amazing mother." "How can you be so sure?" "Because you're already like a mother to dozens of children at the school, and because you have the most generous heart I know." "But what if I can't take good care of the baby because of my blindness?" "Your blindness has never stopped you from doing anything you truly wanted to do. Motherhood won't be any different." The baby was born on a sunny March morning. She was a beautiful girl, with her father's dark hair and her mother's smile. "What does she look like?" asked Abigail, holding her daughter for the first time. "Perfect," said Hawk River, his voice thick with emotion. "She has your eyes and my nose. And is she okay? Healthy?" "Completely healthy. 10 fingers, 10 toes, crying loud enough to prove her lungs work." They decided to name the girl Hope. "Why Hope?" asked Elizabeth, who had come to meet her granddaughter. "Because she represents hope for a better world," explained Abigail. "A world where different people can live in harmony, where love overcomes prejudice. It's a beautiful name and very fitting." Abigail adapted to motherhood with the same determination she had used to adjust to life on the reservation and her studies. Her blindness wasn't an obstacle, just another challenge to overcome. "How do you know when she's hungry or in pain?" asked a visitor who had come to see the baby. "By her cry. Each kind of discomfort has a different sound, and by touch, too. When she's uncomfortable, her little body tenses in a specific way." "Aren't you afraid you might miss something?" Every parent is afraid of missing something important about their child. That's not unique to blind parents. Hope grew up surrounded by love and encouragement. She learned to speak English and the reservation's native language at the same time. She learned to respect Native American traditions while also receiving a formal education. "She's growing up so clever," remarked Luna Wolf when Hope turned 3. "And very determined," added Abigail. "Yesterday she told me she wants to be a teacher like Mommy when she grows up." "What did you say?" "That she can be whatever she wants, as long as it makes her happy and helps others." When Hope turned 5, Abigail and Hawk River were approached with an offer to write a book about their experiences. "A book?" said Abigail, surprised. "About what exactly?" "About how a wealthy blind young woman found purpose and love in a Native American community," explained the editor who had reached out. "It's an inspiring story that could help many people. But our story isn't over yet. That's exactly why it would be interesting. You could show how it's possible to rebuild a life, find new paths, and overcome prejudice." Abigail and Hawk River spent a year writing the book. It was difficult, as it meant revisiting painful moments from the past, but it was also therapeutic. "You know what I realized while writing our story?" Abigail said one evening. "What?" "That every bad thing that happened to me was necessary to bring me where I am today." "How so?" "If I hadn't lost my sight, maybe I'd never have developed so much empathy. If I hadn't been arrogant and cruel, my grandfather would never have sent me here. If my family didn't have this history with the Native American communities, I wouldn't have understood the importance of making peace with the past. And if I hadn't lost my father so young, maybe I wouldn't have learned about forgiveness and responsibility. It's as if everything happened to lead us to each other. And to prepare us for the work we do today, the book was published and became a success. Abigail and Hawk River were invited to give talks across the country. "It's strange being famous," Abigail commented after a particularly moving talk. "You don't like it?" "I like being able to inspire others, but I don't like when people see me as someone special or heroic." "Why not?" "Because I didn't do anything heroic. I just made choices, and anyone can make different choices at any point in life. But not everyone has the courage to make hard choices. Courage is something you develop by doing. I wasn't brave when I first arrived here. I learned to be." During one of the talks, a woman in the audience raised her hand to ask a question. "Do you have any advice for someone who wants to change their life but is afraid?" Abigail thought before answering. "Start small. You don't have to give up everything at once like I did, but begin making small choices that align with who you want to be. And be patient with yourself. Real change takes time." "And what if the people around us don't support our changes?" "Some will, some won't. You can't control others' reactions, only your own actions. And sometimes when you change, it inspires others to change too." "Like what happened with your family?" "Exactly. My brother became a teacher. My mother started working in social outreach. Change can be contagious." After the talk, several people approached Abigail to share their own stories of transformation. "Do you think our book is really helping people?" she asked Hawk River on the way home. "I'm sure it is. How many people spoke to us today who are making changes in their lives? So many. It's rewarding to know our story can inspire others." "And what's our next project? How about just living, enjoying our family, our work, our community?" "Sounds perfect to me." On their 10th wedding anniversary, Abigail and Hawk River held a simple celebration on the reservation. The whole community attended, along with Elizabeth, Nate, and even some people they'd met during their talks. 10 years, Hawk River said in his speech. 10 years since a lost young woman arrived here and changed our lives forever. And 10 years since a wise and generous man showed me what real love was, Abigail replied. "What have you learned in these 10 years?" the shaman asked. "I learned love isn't just a feeling," Abigail said. "It's a choice. Every day I choose to love my husband, my daughter, my community. And I learned the best things in life come when you least expect them," Hawk River said. "And that change and transformation are possible at any age." Hope, now 7, raised her hand to speak. "Can I say something too?" "Of course, sweetheart. I just want to say you're the best parents in the world, and when I grow up, I want a marriage just like yours." The whole gathering laughed and applauded. That night, after everyone had left, Abigail and Hawk River walked to the river where so many important conversations had taken place. "Are you happy?" he asked, repeating the same question he'd asked years before. "Completely happy. And you?" "Couldn't be happier. Is there anything you'd change if you could go back in time?" "Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Every hardship, every mistake, every success brought us here. I wouldn't change a thing either, not even the blindness." "Why not?" "Because blindness taught me to see with my heart, and that's what allowed me to recognize who you truly were from the very first day." "And who was I?" "My protector, my teacher, my life companion. And you were my salvation." "Salvation from what?" "From a life of nothing but responsibilities, without true joy. You brought joy into my life." They fell silent for a moment, listening to the sounds of the forest at night. "What do you think will happen in the next 10 years?" Abigail asked. "I have no idea, and I think that's what makes everything more interesting. As long as we're together, I'm ready for anything." "Always together," Hawk River promised. "Always," Abigail confirmed. And so, under the stars she couldn't see but knew were there, Abigail smiled. Her life had taken turns she could never have imagined, but it had become richer and more meaningful than anything money could buy. The arrogant, bitter young woman who had arrived at the reservation 10 years earlier no longer existed. In her place stood a strong, generous woman, fulfilled in her career and deeply in love. A woman who had found her purpose and her true family. She had been sent to the reservation as punishment, but had found her redemption, and in the process, she had helped others find theirs too. It was proof that love, determination, and courage could transform any life, no matter how difficult the starting point. The end. Now tell me, what did you think of this story of love and transformation? Do you believe Abigail made the right choices by giving up everything for love? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.